What's going on, YouTube? Today I bring you my What I Would Do NBA 2024 mock draft. I was going to make a What I Would Do and a predictive. Decided to just go ahead and make the predictive, so I'm going to put that up on the screen right now. That is what I am predicting mostly to happen tomorrow. Of course, there'll be trades. I expect the Knicks probably don't come out of the first round with two rookies. I could see the Grizzlies trading back if there's not someone they like. I could see the Pelicans trading up. I could see the Nuggets trading up. A lot of different possibilities. As for this video, we are going to be doing a purely who I would pick if I were in these teams' positions. So I'm not going to be doing trades, and I'm going to purely be going off of kind of my big board, what I would be doing if I'm these teams. And because of that, maybe you don't like this pick, but with the first pick for Atlanta Hawks, I'm not going Alex Sarr, and I'm not going Zachary Sachet. I am going to take Donovan Clingan. Now, again, I know some of you aren't going to like this pick. I know a lot of people have Sarr as their best player, and if you don't have Sarr, most people have Sachet. For me, firstly, we know that Klingen's a great defender. I mean, he just is. And, when you take Quinn Snyder, who obviously had success in Utah with the duo of Mitchell and Gobert, when you've got your offensive go-getter with Trae Young already, which, I know there's talks about trading Trae, but I just don't think he's a very tradable player. A lot of teams don't really have. There are teams that could use someone of his caliber scoring wise, but I think in today's league, the way that he hurts defenses, is something that a lot of teams want to stray away from, and not a lot of players respect him. So when you're kind of stuck with Trae Young, and I do think it'd be smart to trade Murray in that scenario, when you can get a really good pairing with Clingan and Young, where you do have, the big-bodied defender who just paroles the rim as well as the guy on the boundary, right? Trae Young to just be able to, they can set each other up really nice, because Clingan, while he is a defensive threat and he is a paint dominant player, there's a lot else to like about his game. I mean, he's not my number one player, but I actually do prefer him to Alex Sarr, just because I think that he's got phenomenal presence in the paint just all around, whether it's defensively, finding guys to kick out to. I think he's got a lot there. I think he's going to be a special player, and I could really see him being an all NBA level player in the NBA. So for a guy that I think fits very well with Trae Young, there's drawbacks. He needs to become a better shooter. He just does. And I do think he could be a bit more refined. He is right now sort of a run and dunk player in some aspects, but there's so much more to his game. Like I said, there's a reason I'm taking him number one. But not a typical, he's no Zion, he's no Ant, he's no Wembanyama, but I really like Clingan here for Atlanta. Moving on to the Wizards at number 2, this pick becomes pretty easy for me. I know I'm off consensus here, but for me, the best player in the class is Stephon Castle. And again, I know that's unpopular, but I think Castle's just got so much to his game that's just to absolutely love. First off, he's a bigger guy, right? He stands, 6'5.5". He's 210 pounds at the point guard position. He wants to play point guard at the next level, and I absolutely think he can. He has the shooting ability, and his jumper is so clean. The issue really draws with consistency. I mean, honestly, if Stephon Castle can create a consistent jumper, and he can really just get that feel at the next level, I really do think that this could be a special player, because he's got all of the makings, to be someone who is just this physical threat from the one position that he's just like a little speeding train. It's hard to stop him once he's got a running start. And this is a guy that, like I said, consistency may be an issue, yeah, but there are times where the shots just fall from this guy. like I said, I know it's very abnormal. A lot of people, it's either Sar or Risache at one, but for me, Stefan Castle, I just came away very impressed with. And if not for the for the Hawks not needing a point guard, he would have been the pick at number one over Klingon for me. Number three is going to be the Houston Rockets, who get this pick from the Nets. And with this pick, there's a lot of different spots that they could go here. You saw in my predictive mock that I do think Reed Sheppel would be the pick here, and I'm going to go Nikola Topic because like I get that he's got the injury and everything, and he might not even play his rookie year, which isn't necessarily like the biggest thing in the world. Like, yeah, sure, if the injury is bad, right, then, but it sounds like it's not really that bad of an injury, and he might even be able to come back, at some point during his rookie season. Disregarding, the injury, like this guy was really close to being my number one player. My big board is Castle 1, Topic 2, and Klingon 3. And those are kind of my three, like, top of the draft guys. First off, Topic, he's a phenomenal shooter. Like, he just is. The best shooter in this class is Reed Sheppard, but, like, Topic is a very close second, in my opinion, who, maybe arguably a bit more, like, technical more than anything. Like, he's already got such a masterful feel for the game of basketball, and this is a guy that he's not just a scorer. Like, he can absolutely find open guys. I think he plays some solid defense. Nothing special, but like this is just a guy that, like, all around you feel really good that this could be your legit point guard of the future, because he's just really got it all. And like your biggest gripe with him is, like, maybe again just the inconsistency, that this is just a guy you're hoping will actually find that, like, drive to drive feel, and not, because there are times where he does have some bad bricks and stuff, but like that's every player. And I think when your biggest thing is really, can you do it consistently, I do think he could be a really damn good player for Houston here. But like I said, you saw my predictive mock. I think he'll probably drop a little bit, and some team's going to get a really dang good steal with Topic. At number 4, the Spurs are probably pretty happy with this. Now, calm your cool, because I know these two guys are still available. I'm going to read Sheppard here. When you have Wembanyama, like, they could totally go Risache. And if you look at my predictive mock, I have them taking Risache at 4th. But Reed Sheppard is the best shooter in this class. And when you can take a guy like Wembanyama, who is this generational freaky prospect who, despite his size and playing the 5, like, he's an excellent shooter, so is Sheppard. And I think if you create a duo there where, and mind you, they still have number 8, right? So we could still get someone really nice there too. Pairing up Sheppard with Wembanyama, I think is just a dream come true, really, in my opinion. Beyond the shooting, like, he may not be the biggest guy in the world, and that's really the big quote drawback with him, is that, like, yeah, he's a smaller guy, but like, even with that size, like, he's a solid defender. And I think, like, he's never going to be a point. He's just not. Like, he doesn't have the ability to set up his teammates as well as guys like Castle and Dillingham and some of them others, but as just a natural 2 who can really just knock down shots and has that ability, I think, to become, one of the more deadlier scoring threats in the NBA. Pairing that up with Wembanyama, like, it's a no-brainer for me. I really like that pick for San Antonio. At number 5, the Pistons. We'll get there, guys. We'll get there with Risache. This is where Alex Sarr is going to come off the board for me. So, like, Sarr, he's probably going to go number 2 to Washington, and you could have argued him going all the way. You can argue him number 1, obviously. For me, like, I think I do prefer a couple other guys over Sarr, just because, like, I don't really know if he's ever going to become, like, an efficient shooter at the next level, which he doesn't necessarily need to be, because, like, he has a big impact in a lot of areas on the court other than shooting. Like, he obviously is a really solid defender. it's going to come when you're his size. And I do think he lends better as a power forward than a center, a pure center, because I don't see the kind of the dish out ability. But like he has it, he can find open teammates. I think he's really smooth, for his size. And here with the Pistons, where they really just need like a player, to go with Cade Cunningham, because Cade just has no help. And when you take a guy who's just naturally very talented like Sar, who again I do believe will be more of a defensive impact than anything offensively, there's still absolutely upside there. And like it's not a crazy thing to say that, if he does kind of find a way to hit his shots more often, like you're looking at a really, really good two-way threat here for Detroit. So I like that here for the Pistons. At number 6, I'm going to go to the Charlotte Hornets. I'm going to go with Matas Buzelis. I'm a big fan of Buzelis. Like, he is absolutely, a boomer bust prospect. And for me, like, when you look at this Hornets team where, like, LaMelo, he's coming back, and I think you've got a really nice duo there already with LaMelo and Brandon Miller. And with Buzelis here, they list him here at small forward, but really he can play, the 3 or the 4. I think he fits really nicely because he's someone that I don't believe, needs to be a scorer. And that's really been his big issue, is that, like, there's times of his career where he's absolutely been, someone who can make some really tough shots. But generally speaking, similar to Sar, I don't really know if this is a guy that's ever truly going to, like, become a dominant scorer. And I think when you look at him, he's a brilliant playmaker. Like, he just is. He's fantastic at finding teammates. And I really do think that this is a guy that would just fit so nicely with Miller and LaMelo, because, like I said, he could play that 4 spot and just be able to kind of play floor general for them in a lot of ways. And I think he's got the ability to do it. So I don't know. I think this would be a really nice fit here with Charlotte. At number 7, the Trailblazers are up, and this is finally where Zachary Risache is going to go. Now, ESPN, which is the board I'm using on this, has him at number 1. And to be honest, like, that's really rich for me. I need to look to see exactly. Let me look actually really quick where he places on my big board. Risache ends up at 6 on my big board. So, like, I think 7's a much more comfortable spot to take him, in my opinion. Risache, I mean, really, he's a scary prospect to me because, like, there's a lot of inconsistency there. Like, we're talking about the true definition of a boomer bust player. He will either be one of the best players from this class, or he will be, one of the biggest busts. And I don't really want Atlanta to take him for that exact reason, because, like, I think if you're Atlanta, that's just a smarter choice to take the safer bet. Whereas Risache, like, yeah, he totally does have high upside. Like, there is a lot of stuff to like there. There's times where he's been a knockdown 3 shooter, and, like, I do think he's got some nice, like, moves in the post, and I think there's the signs. There's absolutely stuff there to say that this guy could totally be, like, he reminds me a lot of Michael Porter Jr. Like, there's a lot of Michael Porter Jr. there. So it's almost kind of like MPJ, but, MPJ also fell to 14 in the draft. So you could use that to argue both ways. But for me, I feel this is a really risky pick that is worth taking if you're a team like Portland, because you're in kind of a no man's land right now. You got a lot of guards. You take a guy here, who's 6'8.5", he's 195. Like, this guy can play that 3 or 4, and just kind of be, maybe a project, but a project worth developing, in my opinion. At number 8, the Spurs with their second pick. I like this one. If they've already gotten Reed Shepherd, that knockdown shooter, I'm going to go with Ron Holland here. Now, Holland is a player that not a lot of people like. I feel like I'm kind of in the middle. A lot of people either really love him or really don't like him. I think there's a lot of flashes there. Like, this is absolutely a player worth taking high up, and I would take him. I don't think he's above Risashe on my big. He's not, but like I would maybe end up taking Holland above Risashe, just depending on what I want necessarily. Like again, this is a guy that the shooting is the big thing. Like he's been inconsistent extremely at times, and I think the other thing is really that like even for his size. He's athletic, but he's not really like the best like finisher. He doesn't finish as well as you'd want. So like this is absolutely kind of one of those, like I said, Risashe picks, right? This is a boom or bust pick. When you're the Spurs, where you just got Shepherd, who you feel really confident is going to be an impact shooter in the league, I feel like a guy like Holland is worth taking the bet at, because like while he doesn't always finish, there are times where he can absolutely just that guy can launch and he will slam it down. Like he's a solid defender as well, and honestly, like he's got some nice. I'm forgetting my words here. He's got like skills for sure. That's the basic way to sum it up. Essentially, that like this is a guy that again is going to be a project. I think if you're going to see any rewards for drafting him, it's going to be a couple years down the road. But those rewards could be potentially very well worth it. At number 9, the Grizzlies here. Now I feel very confident that this pick will probably end up being Devin Carter in real life. And again, that was on my predictive mock. But in this scenario, I definitely prefer Rob Dillingham over Devin Carter. Dillingham would be the perfect player for Memphis, in my opinion, because I think he would be like the absolute dream fit of like a backup point for Memphis. This guy, I think would serve extremely well as someone who can lead his own unit that maybe in the future is going to start. Again, I just think serves really well as that backup floor runner. Beyond that, like this guy can be an extremely consistent shooter at times. He's not, I don't even want to say inconsistent, because like there are times where he gets cold, but generally speaking, like he knocks down his shots pretty well. My main thing with him is that like he is a smaller guy, and unlike like a Topic, who is still a solid, a lot of effort defender, like Dillingham's just not going to add anything to your defense. He's just not. But like I said, like this is a guy that just fits perfectly as that backup, and I like it here for Memphis. At 10, the Utah Jazz are going to go with, again, another highly divisive player, one that I'm actually, probably a bigger fan of than most of these kind of boomer bust prospects, and that's going to be Tidjane Salaün. And I think that's how you say his name. I'm not totally sure. But with Salaün, like this is a guy who, again, like I said, very boomer bust. It could absolutely be one that we look back on and say, like, yeah, it just did not work out. In my opinion, I think that Salaun's going to be a really talented two-way player. This is someone who can not only just knock down shots at a consistent level at times, but is absolutely a plus defender as well. And honestly, like I won't say obviously he's not the best defender in the class, but he has a running for like top 5, maybe even top 3. And I have player comps, which I haven't really been going through as we've been doing this, and I want to actually find that really quick, so hold on. Because I have player comps for these guys, and sorry, I've got a bunch of papers here that I've been keeping notes. Most of the time I keep notes on my computer. I did paper notes for the draft of NBA this year. So my player comp for Salaün is actually Brandon Miller. And so, I really do think, like, as someone who was very low on Brandon Miller, I really went back and reevaluated Miller as a prospect, because that was a big miss on my part for being as low on him as I was. So just as someone who was as a Miller doubter and kind of seeing like where I went wrong on that. I see a lot of similar qualities in Salon that kind of makes me then say, like, yeah, I think this can absolutely be um, a similar level of player, you know? So I don't know. I really like the pick here for Utah. It's an absolutely, an upside pick. But again, when you're a team like Utah, like, why not? So at number 11, the Bulls, again, he might not even be there, honestly, just because he's getting so much hype. I really feel confident that if he's there, they will definitely take Dalton Connect. But for me here, for Chicago, I'm actually going to go with my favorite center prospect that's not named Donovan Clingan, and that all the way down here is going to be Kel Ware out of Indiana. Now, Ware, like, yes, he has there's effort issues, just plain and simply, which is always scary. Like, he there are times where, like, there were a few times where I kind of just went like, what are you doing, bro? Like, he wouldn't chase rebounds. He wouldn't and that's always a little scary. And there's times where he'd make some dumb decisions. Disregarding that, which, again, I know obviously is like a big thing, he's a phenomenal athlete. I mean, he just is. This guy can, be in dunk contests if he really wanted to. I think he's got, a really smooth jumper, to be honest. Even though he's almost 7 feet, 230, like, this is a center that can absolutely shoot it from deep if you're leaving him wide open. And while there's times where you see, at the same time, though, I do just want to say that, like, it's kind of also tough to play at Indiana and give a crap. I really do think that this could potentially be our Derek Lively of this year, not just because he's a center, but, like, someone that we're going to look back on and say, like, yeah, he should have gone way higher. Because I'm a big fan of Kel Ware, and I think, you put him in the right system, which you could argue is not Chicago, but if you put him in the right system and, really put him around the right teammates, this guy could absolutely thrive as a 5 in the league. At number 12, the Oklahoma City Thunder are going to get a pretty joyous pick here with Dalton Connect, who, like, even though I'm not the hugest fan of Connect, like, still getting him at 12 is absolutely a steal, especially if you're the Thunder here, because the last thing they need is a guy like Connect, who is probably the second best shooter in the class, in my opinion, outside of Reed Shepherd. Like, this guy can absolutely be your lead scorer off your bench if you're Oklahoma. And that could be very helpful to the team right now, obviously, if you can get a new top scorer to your second unit, because you look at that first unit and it's really good. You have Shea, who is obviously one of the better players in basketball right now. You have Caruso, who's a phenomenal perimeter defender. Jalen Williams has been great. Chet Holmgren was great. Lou Dort is a great, kind of fifth piece to that offense. They're not really in possession of an elite bench player right now, and I think that's what Connect can be, because, like I said, really all he needs to do is shoot the ball, and this is a guy that is also a really solid finisher, so can drive in as well. Your big gripe with him is that, like, he's absolutely not a defender, and he's not even that small of a guy, but he gets picked on defensively. I mean, that's your one thing, but, like, when you have such a talented scorer coming off the bench, I don't know, I think that's a great pick. At 13, the Kings are going to go with, this is another one that I feel pretty good about, and I actually like this, even though I think they're going to do it, and that's Jared McCain out of Duke. I am a big Jared McCain fan. Like, is he going to be a star? No, I don't think so. But as far as someone who is just another one of these really solid, consistent shooters, that's what a lot of this draft feels like, is a lot of really just solid players to get that should help you win games. Like, this may not have the superstars and everything, but I feel that there's going to be a lot of good players to come out of this class. And McCain's one of those guys where, like, he's never going to be an elite player. He's just not the athlete. At his size, he's not going to be a great defender or anything. But this is a guy that, I feel good that he'll hit those consistent outside shots for you, and can also, he can battle for those rebounds. Like you see, 5 rebounds a game. Like he battles for them. And I think this is, someone who also like has a legit chance to be a 6 man of the year type player because of how well he can kind of set up his teammates as well. So this is just one of those packages where like, no, he's not going to be a superstar, but could Jared McCain absolutely be like, a Malik Monk replacement 4 years down the road or something? Like, totally. So I really think that this could be. You could argue maybe they don't go here now because of resigning Monk, but Monk could end up starting at some point with his new contract and everything. Most likely will. So to replace Monk, maybe even this year, right? If Monk is starting. So I like Jared McCain here to the Kings. At number 14, the Trailblazers are going to go with someone who is kind of ridiculously low on ESPN's draft chart. And in my predictive, I don't have him going all the way till 28 to Denver. And I, as a Nuggets fan, I hope to God that happens, because one of my favorite sleepers in the class is going to be Dayton forward, wherever he is, DaRon Holmes second. So DaRon Holmes, again, like he's on all the way down here at 39, which is crazy. Like, I'm not sure why there's some like ESPN or some people who aren't a big fan of this guy. No, he didn't play super high level competition at Dayton and everything, but like he was a really good shooter last year, and he's also had this, like, he has a really just good feel for the game. Like, he just across the board, he feels like a Nuggets player, right? He's kind of like Aaron Gordon in a few ways, but my player comp for him was, if I take a look here at my papers again, trying to find my DaRon Holmes. I didn't label this as good as I had. My player comparison is Jalen Smith, but I also like the comparison of Aaron Gordon because, again, like as someone who wants him on the Nuggets, he has that real like sixth sense to the game where he just knows where to be, whether it's for an open shot or for the rebound and whatever. And like, some people might say that like he's kind of a 1-year wonder because like he did take such a massive step shooting last year. And I don't know, I thought looking at him that this guy just looks like a player who will be like a starter in the NBA. So for a guy who's ranked 39th on ESPN's board and is projected to go like very late first round, I would absolutely feel great taking him here in the middle of the first, especially if I'm Portland here, who's now added Reece Shea and Holmes. Maybe some fans might not like coming away with that haul, but like I think that's too potential. You have a really high upside player there, and then you have a guy that I think's going to be one of the steals of the draft. So I like Holmes here. At 15, almost halfway through, the Heat are going to pick up a player that, while I'm not as crazy on him as a lot of other people, he's absolutely a really solid player to get here if you're 15 for the Heat, with Devin Carter out of Providence, if I can speak. Now, Devin Carter, I keep going back to my papers. I should know these better. I want to keep pulling up my player comps, and actually I should probably talk about some of my other player comps that we've gone over. Alex Sarr comp was Jaren Jackson Jr., Stephon Castle was Markelle Fultz, Nikola Topic was SGA, Rob Dillingham was Kobe White, Donovan Clingan is Ivica Zubats, Reed Shepard is Derek White, Zachary Reece-Shea is Michael Porter Jr., Ron Holland is Harrison Barnes, Matas Buzelis is Franz Wagner, and we already talked about Salon, which is Brandon Miller. Dalton Connect is Max Strus. And we get to Jared McCain with Seth Curry. And we just talked about DaRon Holmes. And then we get here to Devin Carter, who my comp for is Bruce Brown. But the big disparity there, obviously, is that he's a much better defender than Bruce Brown, who's no slouch, but like, that's really one of the main things you notice when watching Devin Carter pretty quickly, is that he is kind of a mix in a way of like the best of Bruce Brown and Alex Caruso, because he might end up giving Caruso a run for best perimeter defender in the NBA. Beyond that, super athletic guy, that he may be 6'2", but like he's gonna out rebound half the guys on the court every possession. And the one thing is like he's just not. He's not that great of a shooter, in my opinion. I don't think he ever will be, and that's what's going to limit his ceiling. But again, as one of these just perfect bench players, I think it's a really nice pickup to add if you're Miami here. And he's might even be starting for you. Like, I don't know if he will, but it's a guy that potentially could. So I like Carter here for Miami. Here at 16 with the 76ers, I'm going to go with another one of kind of my favorite, like, again, for ESPN, he's ranked pretty low compared to where I have him, but another one of my sleepers of the class with Tyler Smith. Now, by now, you've probably started to realize that, yeah, I am a fan of some of these G League Ignite players because I do think that, kind of the shooting concerns are overrated. And a guy like Tyler Smith kind of proves that because this is a talented shooter that I think, he does need some work regarding like finishing, and he's just not a defensive player. It's just not. But that's not where his value lies. And when you're playing on a team with Joel Embiid, like you've already got a great defender right there. Which doesn't hurt to add to, but that's just not Tyler Smith's game. This is a guy that he's going there to give you points. The thing is, like, he doesn't. I'm trying to think how to explain this, and bear with me because this is my first time kind of like really talking about NBA prospects like this. He is not a stiff shooter, but he's also not like the most fluid guy in the world. So unless he's getting like pretty wide open looks, or unless like he's not someone that you're going to use a whole bunch on pick and rolls. This is a guy that you're looking for on a kick out, and he'll knock a lot of those shots down. But there's a cap on his ceiling to a certain extent. Can he develop past that? Absolutely. Like he's still young. He's only about to be 20. A lot of these guys are young, obviously, but there's upside there with Tyler Smith, so I like that here for Philadelphia. With the Lakers here, I am going to go with another one of these guys that I'm a fan of that are maybe a little low for me, and that's going to be Tyler Kolek, the point guard out of Marquette. I like Kolek here for the Lakers because this is a player that, and I know I've said that a lot of times already, and I'll try to stop saying it, but this is a player that will run, the point position at a high level in the NBA, I think. And, obviously he's not going to be a superstar or anything, but for a team that's losing D'Lo and might need, maybe a rookie to run it with the 17th pick, like I do think Kolek has the ability to do that year one. Having LeBron would help, obviously, but like the main thing with him, he's a smaller guy who just doesn't get a lot of he doesn't get a lot of work done defensively, but like he's smart. He's a player that is not a slouch. He's not lazy. He's just not a good defender because he's a smaller guy. And I will say as well that like that size had some negatives on his shooting because there were a fair few times where he just wasn't able to get high quality shots because of it. But as far as a guy who can find his teammates, can really drive in and just like he can also hit from outside. It's just one of those guys where his ceiling is capped. He's not the most athletic guy, but as someone who can run the point at a decently high level as a rookie, I think I like the pick here for Los Angeles. At number 18, the Magic are going to jump on the opportunity of Cody Williams. So Cody Williams is a guy that I'm a little lower on than most people. Like a lot of people have him kind of as a near top 10 prospect. I'm much more like early 20s on him. Now I feel okay taking him here for Orlando because I think he fits their type of player. Like it's hard to just go draft what they need, at this point of the draft, because a lot of those like talented shooters are kind of off the board by this point. And yeah, you could say like go trade up for one or take the upside of like an Isaiah Collier offensively or Keyshawn George or something. or maybe take a swing on Terrence Shannon. There's some other stuff going on with him, but like for me, I think Cody Williams just really fits with what the Magic like in their players, where like he is a really athletic player who is best used defensively, where like he's just he's all over the court, and I think that's a guy that the Magic are really gonna like. But beyond that, like I really do think that he's got like a lot of he's brilliant for a pick and roll, and I don't know exactly who you're gonna run the pick and roll with Cody Williams right now in Orlando. Um, but like I could absolutely see him being like a really good pairing with Paulo Banchero at the 3 and 4 positions, and then if they're able to go make a trade for like a Trey Young's maybe a little unrealistic, but maybe you can get a DeJounte Murray or something like that. I think Cody Williams is then a really great piece to have, with that team, because you're just not going to get exactly what you need with the 18th pick. So I don't know. Maybe this isn't what Magic fans want, but like I think it's probably the best you're going to get from this point in the draft. Moving on next to number 19 with the Toronto Raptors, I decided to go with Johnny Furphy, the freshman out of Kansas. Furphy, I think he's a really good playmaker. This is someone who's excellent at kind of finding guys on the outside. He's got some really nice size to him to play the 2 or the 3, and really this is I think a player that's just going to fit Toronto's system really well and come in and again not be like a superstar for them or anything, but just be a good team player for them. At 20, the Cavaliers are going to go with Isaiah Collier, so his quote fall kind of stops. Another player that I'm not maybe as high on some people. I think this is about where you see him going in mock drafts, but then everybody talks about how he's falling. I don't really see this as a fall. This is about where he should go, in my opinion. Like I kind of see more negatives with Collier than I see positives. There's stuff there to like, but I don't really think that he's not he's not always the smartest player. I'll just say that. Like he there's a lot of head scratchers, and I think more than anything, like there's a lot of turnovers there, and even beyond that, like he's not the most consistent shooter. This guy's game really comes from the fact that I've heard him be described as a bulldog, and I think that fits very well because he's this smaller kind of projectile bullet where again his game is to kind of drive in, and there is shooting upside there, but I think his game is going to be pretty one-dimensional at the next level personally. And he might be a solid defender, but it's just again he's a smaller guy, and I don't think he's great for his size even or anything. So I don't know. This is a player that I kind of note more negatives than positives. So kind of a player that if maybe he was a bit taller, maybe if he was a bit more consistent of a shooter, like he might go higher for me, but I don't see this as like a player worth taking in the top 15. Here at 21 with the Pelicans, this was a decently easy pick for me. Like they are going to have a big need at the center position because Jonas Valanciunas is very likely on his way out. I'm not going to go Edey. I'm not even going to go Filipowski. I like Yves Missi here for the Pelicans. I would maybe even consider drafting him higher. This guy's role in the NBA is very cut and dry. He is a good defender that, can throw down the dunks, but this is not a playmaker. This is not a shooter, not even a free throw shooter. Like I said, his role in the NBA is very distinct. The Pelicans need a center, and I think a guy that really brings that true defensive domination, right? Like maybe not an elite defender, but he's a really good one. With Brandon Herb Jones, I think that makes for a really nice pairing, and at a big position of need for the Pelicans, who will probably trade Brandon Ingram, and maybe they could jump up and get themselves like a Kelly Ware or something like that, but That's where I have them going for right now. At 22, the Suns are going to take another center prospect, and this time Zach Edey is going to go off the board. Now, again, another player I'm not the hugest fan of. However, I do think Edey is a really good fit here with the Suns. This is another guy where, his role in the NBA, while he's a much more unique and intriguing player than Misi, like, in a way, his role is still, pretty set, right? Because, like, this guy, he can score from the interior and he can defend the interior. He's just not someone who is going to defend very well outside of the paint. There is no perimeter game from the outside. Like, he cannot shoot, and he cannot defend outside of the paint. So, for me, like, maybe he has not maybe he has way more offensive ability to his game than a guy like Misi, but I feel better drafting Misi just knowing that, like, this is going to be a damn good defender, and that's that. Whereas with Edey, I don't feel as confident that he's going to be, a great defender necessarily, especially because he doesn't have the ability to really leave the paint. And in today's game, you really just kind of have to be able to do that. Now, the one exception is here with the Suns, where they have 3 ball handlers. Nurkic is just not the type of center that they needed, and I do think Edey is that kind of center they need. He doesn't have any role in the game outside of the paint, but you really don't need that when you've got Kevin Durant and Bradley Beal and Devin Booker. So, I may not be the biggest fan of him. This is about where I'd feel fine taking him, but I actually think the fit here with the Suns is really nice. So I like that pick there for Phoenix. At 23, the Bucks are going to pick up another one of my favorite sleepers in the class, and I have no idea how low ESPN has him, but this is a little ridiculous unless I skipped over him. Nope. Dylan Jones at 49 from Weber State is going to be my pick here for Milwaukee. I'm a big fan of Dylan Jones. This could be another guy that, I think we could look back on as one of the steals of the class. And I get it because, like, he is a more, unique player where, no, there's not a lot of defense to his game. He's not very athletic, and he can be an inconsistent shooter. As negative as that may sound, he has some nice size. I think that he has the ability to knock down shots, and that will progress once he gets to the NBA. Beyond that, I do think that he fits really nicely on this Bucks team because where he is defensively deficient, I think that, the guys like Giannis and Lopez make up for that. But he's also, he may not be the defensive player, of some of the teammates he'd be with here, but he still is a very high effort player who fights for rebounds, and he gets them, even if he's not a great defender. And I also think that he's a solid playmaker. So this just kind of feels like one of those guys that, like, I think he would just contribute to a winning team. And that's what you can ask for, I think, when you're the Bucks here at 23, who there's not really any more stars to go get. Like, you have your firepower, you just need the players around it to make it work. So I think Dylan Jones could be one of those players. At 24 and 25, the Knicks, like I said, we're not trading picks, but I absolutely don't think that they'll be picking with both of these spots. And I know Ryan Dunn is a really popular pick here, and I get why, and I could totally go there because, he's the defender that Tom Thibodeau really would love on this team. But and mind you, this isn't a fall for me necessarily because, again, I'm not a huge fan of him, but especially for, like, ESPN's board, Jacoby Walter is still available, and so we are going to get him off the board because even as someone who's not a big fan of Jacoby Walter, like, obviously there's stuff to like about him. My player comp for him was, let me go back to the paper now, which I should have been giving out the comps again as I was talking about the players, but I'll go over some of those again right now. Cody Williams was Jeremy Grant. So Jacoby Walters we'll get back to in a second. Isaiah Collier was Ty Lawson. Yves Misi was Jalen Duran. And Zach Edey was Jonas Valanciunas. So maybe you'd argue the Pelicans would prefer him, but Tyler Smith was Jaden McDaniels, so go figure for the Timberwolves. And then Kel'el Ware was Miles Turner, and Tyler Kolick was Goran Dragic, and Dylan Jones was Julius Randle if he was a guard. That's very important. So getting back to the Jacoby Walter comparison, Chris Middleton is my comp, and not so much, like Chris Middleton's been a very important player to the Bucks and is an extremely crafty shooter and everything, and has some really nice ball handling skills. I don't think that's necessarily where the comp comes in. It's more so through the perspective of this is a very he's athletic. He has I'm trying to think of the right word. I want to say range, essentially, where he's just got this really nice ability to finish extremely physically and really just get out in front of everybody. And he's got long arms. He has a wingspan of 6'10", right? And he himself is only 6'4". So Jacoby Walter, he's a pesky defender that, as well as being a pesky defender, can drive in, play makes pretty well. I don't know. I think there's a lot to like here with Walter, but where I don't think he's a high level player. I don't think he's someone that's going to excel at the NBA level. This feels like a backup to me, but I think he can be a very good backup, just not someone that I'm drafting, thinking he's going to be a starter. I just don't think he has the, he can make plays, but he's not a playmaker, I guess is the way I'd put it. And beyond that, I don't think he's actually that talented of a shooter, really. And like I already talked about earlier, the difference between him and Middleton is that Middleton is his best case scenario. That's your upside, I guess, with Walter, except I just don't expect him to hit on it. And then at 25 for the Knicks, I'm going with Kyle Filipowski here, who is not a Knicks player, really. He's not. We know Tom Thibodeau likes his good defenders, and especially for a center, that's just not what Filipowski is. He's got shades of Zach Collins, is kind of the way I think was best to comp him, but his game, he is a developmental player. And why I like him here for the Knicks, which I should actually probably draft him, why I like him here for the Knicks is because you need developmental pieces. They have a really filled out roster, but they also low-key have a big need at backup center. So I think as someone that, in the event that Mitchell Robinson goes down again, you have someone who can take over. And this is a guy that he's most reliable kind of in that outside of the paint area. And what I also like about him is that he has this ability to find open teammates really easily. And while he's not a good defender, it's not again, there's being a bad defender and then there's not being a good defender. And there is a difference, because when you're a bad defender, you're lazy. You're letting guys blow by you. You're not contesting shots. Filipowski, he doesn't do that. He's not a bad defender. He's just not a good one. He doesn't, if you know what I mean, then you know what I mean. But I don't know. I think this, partially, Misi, those other centers, they're all gone by this point. Filipowski's my least favorite of them. But I could at least see where if you're the Knicks, who can really develop this guy as a true backup for 2-3 years or whatever, I think it's a worthwhile pick, and will also make for a good backup. At 26, the Wizards, with their second pick after taking Castle back at number 2, are going to go with another guard. And maybe Wizards fans don't want 2 guards. However, firstly, Castle, might play the 2. I know he wants to play the 1, but that's probably what you're drafting him as. But the other guy here I'm going with is Pacome Dadier, who could also play the 3, so that's the thing is they're 2 points, but even Fanspo is listing him as a 2, but I view him as more of kind of a 1 naturally, that is a 2 or 3 because of his size, really more than anything. So Dadier, like, he's an interesting player because this is another one of those like more upside related picks and everything. And if you're the Wizards, that's what you're looking for. But at the same time, like, he almost feels like a safe player because while this is absolutely a developmental player and you're not entirely sure what you're getting off the jump with him, I feel very confident that in 1, 2, maybe 3 years' time, this will be a really solid bench player, if not a low-end starter, because he's just shown a lot of upside in a lot of areas. Like, he's a really good, solid defender. He's shown a lot of potential just in a lot of areas of the game. He's a smart player. He's a playmaker, a good team player. He can score. So yeah, I don't know. This feels like a guy that, again, like, I just feel there's a lot there, and you feel good that he is going to be an impact player sometime down the road. You're just not quite sure when. At 27, the Timberwolves are going to take Nikola Jurisic out of Serbia, who is another one of these under the radar guys that I have no idea why people are, kind of lower on. And, not all these guys are going to end up being good, obviously, right? But Jurisic, it kind of feels like someone who's getting a little overlooked because he's from Serbia and, doesn't exactly like get a lot of attention. But I think this is just, the definition of someone that like shows a lot of upside. Really, it's just kind of like, if he can become a consistent shooter, then this could be a starter for you, who's a legit talented playmaker who, like, he's also a solid defender. Like, this is a guy that, like I said, if he gets that shooting down, you're looking at an actually really damn good player here to get for the late first round. But if he doesn't really become a more consistent shooter, then it's more of a solid bench player for the Timberwolves here, who fits their identity defensively and everything. So I like it here for Minnesota. At 28, the Nuggets are going to go with Kevin McCullough from Kansas. McCullough, again, this is another one of those kind of 3-and-D players that I think Denver could kind of use. He's got some solid size. He fits their. I should probably make the pick on the screen. He's another one of those guys where, like, I think he's a smart player who fits Denver's system and would just fit in naturally with Jokic. And he's got a lot of shooting upside. Like, this is a talented scorer. So I think there could be more to be had with Kevin McCullough. At 29, I'm going to go with Bub Carrington. I know this is the big guy who everyone's like, where's Bub Carrington? I'm just going to be honest. I'm not a big fan of Carlton Carrington. I will actually, like, not put money on it, but if I had to take a bet, I would bet that this guy's going to get really overdrafted, because I really don't think he's actually that talented of a scorer, and I'm just not a fan of him. I get that he has a nice jumper, but I don't really see much besides that, and I think this is a guy that is going to be a bust. I'm just honest. Like, I don't think that he's not very athletic. He's not a super strong finisher, not a really high upside defender or anything. So I'm not a big fan of him, but for the Jazz, it's a bet here. And then last but not least, to end off the first round, the Celtics are going to take Tristan da Silva out of Colorado. Another player that I'm not super big on, but with Da Silva, it's a bit more of a safer bet, in my opinion, than someone like Carrington for the Celtics here. Someone who, is a solid 3 shooter, and I think, can find his open guys and everything, but just not an athletic player, doesn't really play good defense, not a huge effort guy or anything. So I don't know, this kind of feels like a Celtics player that's got some nice size for the position, and hopefully just a solid backup or a developmental piece. But that is going to round out my one and only 2024 NBA mock draft. Let me know down below, who do you want your team to go with? Who do you think your team will go with? What did I get right? What did I get wrong? Would love to talk about it with you guys. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see all you guys next, probably for a NHL mock draft for hockey. So if you're interested in that, go ahead and hit the like and subscribe, and I will see all you guys in the next video. Bye-bye.